Democrats nearly lost their majority in the House of Representatives in the 2020 elections, and their post-election recriminations show the reason. They think their problem was their packaging, their marketing, instead of their policies, and therefore the hand-wringing has begun. Now, if we look at the map where we stand right now, Democrats have 221 in the House and Republicans have 209. The Democrats needed 218 to keep majority in the House. They've passed that number just barely. There are still 5 more seats that have not been decided. They are too close to call at this point, according to Real Clear Politics. 2 of those are virtually 50-50. They are within 0.1% of one another. One of those races, a Democrat leads, and then 2 other races Republicans lead currently. So it looks like the Republicans may pick up another 3 seats or so, and maybe the Democrats 2. We may end up with a 223 to 212, maybe a 222 to 213, somewhere in there. It is the thinnest majority that we will have seen in the House of Representatives in a very long time. Democrats have already lost 8 seats net, and of course they could lose 4 or 5 more. The results may be the smallest House majority since 1919, and it's especially shocking as Democrats reclaimed the White House. So while Joe Biden leads Donald Trump in the national popular vote by about 3.6%, House Democratic candidates are ahead by only 2.1%, a margin that exaggerates the Democratic edge because more Democratic seats were uncontested than Republican seats that were uncontested. Democrats also had an incumbency advantage with 3 times as many House Republican members retiring this year. Now, what are they saying over it? The Democrats are brawling over the reason. Progressives and swing state members blaming one another. Progressives refuse to take any responsibility. A post-election memo from the left-wing Justice Democrats warned Democrats against retreating from their positions on culture or economics, claiming that their agenda drove turnout. So AOC, for example, blamed her defeated colleagues for not knowing how to run smart digital campaigns and how to sell progressive policies. Again, marketing and packaging and not reflecting what the policies are that maybe Americans aren't ready for, don't want right now. Maybe they'll never want them. She isn't backing down from the Green New Deal or cutting funds for police, though GOP ads hammered Democrats on both issues in swing states. Swing state members are more realistic in that they recognize the damage from GOP ads that attack Democrats for socialism, defunding the police, raising taxes, and green policies like eliminating oil and gas drilling. But these Democrats also seem to think it comes down to packaging. Now, on the other side, some are saying that the label of socialism or socialist is the culprit. For example, Virginia Representative Abigail Spanberger said that they lost good members because of these labels. She herself was narrowly reelected in a Virginia district that went to Republicans from 1971 until she won in 2018. I think that was the district that Eric Cantor was the representative. She says Democrats need to focus more on proactive messages and passing bills that speak to people, like funding for education and expanding rural broadband. Democrats like her think it's important to recognize that while Joe Biden was elected, over 70 million Americans voted to keep President Trump in office. That is a lot. The biggest number ever for a loser in a presidential election. Here's the problem for Democrats who want to argue that their losses down ballot were just about packaging and not policies. According to the Wall Street Journal, House Democrats, where the Democrats had a majority, turned sharply leftward in the last 2 years. For example, they voted for huge new tax increases, vast new spending, and a gradual end to fossil fuels. And while they didn't vote to defund the police, member after member indulged Black Lives Matter, which wants to slash police budgets. For example, Max Rose, the Democrat from Staten Island, joined a Black Lives Matter march that featured in a Republican attack ad, and he lost re-election. From an outsider's perspective, the problem may not be the Democratic message, it's their program. You can only disguise policies just so long. People know that the Green New Deal means more expensive energy and an end to fracking. They know that when you say $1.8 trillion for COVID relief is not enough, that means more government. Voters also know that Senate Democrats talked openly about ending the legislative filibuster, and that House and Senate Democrats advocated packing the Supreme Court. These voters who heard these messages elected more Republicans in the House and Senate as a check on these policies. Now, if the Democrats ignore this lesson, they'll set themselves up for further losses in 2022. Many are predicting that this year's gains for Republicans, and because of the specter of redistricting, Speaker Pelosi will find it hard to navigate her divided caucus with a narrow majority. Centrists will want to show their independence from the left to try to keep getting reelected, and if Pelosi moves too far in the swing seat direction, progressives may not go along. So she might have to make concessions to Republicans to pass some bills. A comparison that the Wall Street Journal drew to the situation that Pelosi's in is that back in 2011 and 12, when Republicans made gains in Congress after the first 2 years of the Obama administration in the midterm elections during his first term, the GOP Freedom Caucus caused problems for John Boehner, and he had to work through that, navigate through that. Pelosi might have the same problem with the progressives in the Democrat Party. Again, the specter of 2022 will hang over this Congress because the GOP gained in state legislatures during the election. Those gains mean that Republicans might gain several seats from the reapportionment of House districts in 2021. Also, certain states are probably going to lose House seats due to population shifts. New York could lose 2 House seats. California could lose 1. If the Democrats want to hold on to the House in 2022, they will have to learn the right policy lessons from 2020. Now, one more thing. Any race decided by small margins, the small margins that we found in this race, could have been won by either side. It's hard to have sympathy for President Trump losing when he lost by such a small margin in state after state. He could have improved his character or tone. That was one of the major things that people voted against when they voted against him. He also didn't develop a clear second-term agenda. He should have taken a bipartisan approach to the pandemic, and one suggestion is he could have appointed a general, not a politician, to lead the effort. By appointing politicians to lead the effort, he made this a political effort, a Republican effort, and he had to own up to that. And those may have been big mistakes. The Biden campaign focused on character, but if character had outweighed the issues, Trump would have lost by 20%. And that didn't happen because it wasn't all about character for most voters. It was also about the issues. It is highly significant that in deep blue California, 2 ballot measures, property tax increases and racial preferences by government, both went down by wide margins. Now, lastly, when it comes to polling, a couple of the final polls right before the election got the election just about right as far as the popular vote. So Rasmussen had Biden with a 3-point advantage over Trump, and Hill Harris had a 4-point advantage for Biden over Trump. Here's Hill-Harris's last survey, it was 49 to 45 Biden over Trump. That's pretty close to what the actual results were in the election. The momentum seesawed in the last month and ended up on Trump's side as he ramped up his mass rallies. So the prominent national polls such as Wall Street Journal, NBC, CNN, and Quinnipiac predicting 10 to 12 point landslides for Biden, which would have produced something on the line of 40 of the 50 states going to Biden. That really should have been dismissed as being unrealistic or even impossible. Many pollsters going forward will have to rebalance their models to reflect a more conservative and Republican country, or continue to report erroneous results, not only in the key campaign races, but also on key issues. Thank you for watching this video. Please comment or give suggestions below. Click on the Political Tangents icon to subscribe, and I hope you check out some more of my videos. Thank you again for watching.